Okay, so I've cleaned things up a little bit here, and this is going to be a video about tariffs and the effect that tariffs will have on this situation here. So again, I've cleaned things up a bit, and let me just highlight what I've done here. First of all, I took the old domestic supply equilibrium and demand equilibrium out at this point, and the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity to clean things up. So this is the situation where we're importing, and here is the consumer's surplus. With imports, basically what happens is the old domestic supply line becomes this flat domestic supply line because international producers are willing to supply as much as the market wants at this price here. So that's how that works. Again, the domestic producers are getting a smaller producer's surplus. And in this situation, the domestic production is this quantity from here to here, represented from here to here at that price. This is how much the domestic producers will produce at, $1.50 a tub. And then the rest of the supply is provided by imports. So from here to here, all of that is provided by that ship that's floating out in Honolulu Harbor, unloading tofu right and left. Okay, so the where we kind of left the story is that the domestic producers, having once had this much bigger producer surplus, they're upset, they complain, and what they say is, we want a tariff put on tofu imports from that ship from other countries, and the tariff is going to be a additional charge on each tub of tofu. So let's say that that's we've gone from let's say it's 25 cents. So we've gone from 150 to 175. So the people on the boat, they're selling the tofu at 150, but as each tub of tofu, gets unloaded in the port, 25 cents is charged to them. So in order to sell the tofu, the price needs to rise to 175. So what happens then is that the price increases from the world price to the world price plus the amount of the tariff. So this will become your new price line or price point. So let's draw that going across. And so once the tariff is imposed, this then becomes the new tariff economy price line. And obviously, prices have gone up. This consumer's surplus in this area is going to be chipped away. And what we're going to do here is we're going to break that up into 4 sub-pieces and identify what each of those sub-pieces is. So first of all, this dropping down from the domestic supply line to the quantity axis is how much tofu the domestic producers will make once the tariff is in place. And this line, or this quantity, if we drop down here, is going to be the amount that the domestic consumers will demand at that price. So what ends up happening here is basically that these quantities change. So this is going to be, we'll call it Q domestic with the tariff. So from here to here now is how much the domestic producers are going to produce. So they're going to be able to produce from QD to QDT more. And this is going to be the quantity demanded. And so we'll call this the QWT with tariff. So this is the amount that's going to be demanded, and then the amount of imports now with trade is going to shrink down and be, if I go above the line here, it's going to be this amount from there to there. So the amount imported will change from before was QD to QW. It will go down to QDT to QWT. And the domestic production is going to rise in terms of quantity from, we'll just call this 0 here, from 0 to, it was 0 to QD. Now it's going to go 0 to QDT. All right, so now what is of interest to economists are these A, B, C, and D, these 4 shapes. So up over here we'll cover what these are. A, B, C, D. Now the first thing to notice about all 4 of these shapes is that they used to be, so we'll say was, they used to be consumer surplus. A, B, C, D. Okay, so all of them were consumer surplus. Now, when you add the tariff, the question is who gets them? And A here is going to be pretty straightforward. A is going to become additional producer surplus for the domestic producers. So these guys, they were all upset before, but look at this. And this is why the domestic producers push for tariffs, because they pick up area A. So they're able, if we take it away from the world of graphs, but just think about it in real terms, they're able to raise their prices by 25 cents a tub, and they're able to produce more. So they're going to produce more, and yeah, and they're going to be happy. All right, so that's A. So A is going to be domestic producer. Whoop. Why is this? Not accepting. There we go. So domestic producer. Then I'm gonna jump to C next. And C, do that in red. C is, if you think about it and look at the sort of sides of C, what C is um, it's the amount that the foreign producers are selling, so QDT to QWT, multiplied by this side, which is the amount of the tariff. So, you know, if this is 100 tubs of tofu and this is 25 cents a tub, then this is going to be a value of $25. And the place where that goes is to the government. So C goes to the government. Government. Now, from an economist's standpoint, that the money goes to the government is really not a big problem, because the government can only do one of two things with it. Either the government can give it to consumers, or the government can give it to the domestic producers, and the money's not lost. Now, this ultimately comes down a little bit to your politics. If you think that the government is wasteful and spends the money on stupid things, then maybe this is a problem. And if you're more sympathetic to government, you think government provides helpful goods and services, then this actually is good. But the economists will take a pass on that issue, at least in this context, and say, okay, that money is coming into the government, but it's going to get recycled back into the domestic economy. So that's okay. The two areas that are really kind of the problem for economists are B and D. And both of those go under the overall term of dead weight losses. So these are losses that nobody recovers, nobody gets back. And the B, if you think about it, B is tofu that is inefficiently produced because the domestic producers are producing it only because the price is above the world price. And so they're manufacturing this in an inefficient manner compared to what the international competitors can do, because the international competitors can produce it at this price and sell it at that price. So that's what that is. So we'll call it a dead weight loss. And D is also a dead weight loss. Because there, what's happening is consumers previously were able to consume all the way out to QW. Now they drop back to QWT. And so all the happiness that tofu provided consumers when this much was being consumed, it's chipped away a little bit, because now they're only consuming this much tofu. And you know, the price is higher, and obviously whenever the price is higher and you consume less than you'd like, you're less happy. So that's also a dead weight loss. So it's really this triangle and this triangle that are the items that upset traditional economists in trade theory, because those are the dead weight losses. That's money that is lost to the system, whereas A is basically a transfer from consumers to producers, and C is a transfer to the government, and then the government has to either basically give that money to consumers or give that money to producers, and so that's not lost. It's B and D that are the problems.